Hey, listen, We Just Different podcast. I'm so excited for my special guest right here. She's local, right here in South Florida, man. Dynamic human being, Davi Speaks. Hey, listen, she has a tremendous story. She has a tremendous purpose. She has phenomenal energy. I'm so excited to get in here and just find out who is Davica, who is Davi. Like, why is it that you are just so amazing? Like, so tell the people, who are you? What do you do? Why are you just so everything, so special, so you? Tell me, who are you?
Wow. That's always a loaded question. People ask me, like, who am I? I've had a whole lot of time to figure out who am I. And, I like to hear myself. I can't hear myself, so I'm like, okay, this sounds weird. But basically, I am an Afro-Latina woman. I'm a Miami native.
Okay.
I'm of Bahamian and Colombian ancestry.
Okay.
I grew up in a Southern Baptist early church formation, which really much kind of was like where my moral compass was developed very young. Then Hurricane Andrew moved us from the South Miami-Dade area and moved me to the North Miami Beach. That was like 1992. So growing up in the 90s here in South Florida, I found my voice. And so from there, modeling, mentoring. I mean, we're going to get into the story. So, I'm really just trying to gauge, like, who is Davica outside of being now a twinless twin. I was born an identical twin. My twin sister transitioned June 2nd, 2018, due to complications of having 5 rare chronic autoimmune diseases, by which she went into cardiac arrest because of having systemic scleroderma, caused her to have challenges with her lungs, and then we didn't even know that then her heart became affected the last 10 months of her life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was just 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So what is the name? What is the clinical name of the autoimmune? What is it called?
Okay, systemic scleroderma was one, which was the main autoimmune disease that caused her to develop Raynaud's syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, mixed connective tissue disease, surgeon's disease. These are all autoimmune diseases, John. They're all rare, okay, and chronic and debilitating. And then she later acquired lupus. Lupus and systemic scleroderma, as my sister would say, on the clinical module side, they're like cousins in the disease world, how they look up under the microscope. But more people have systemic scleroderma than lupus. But you hear all the time, people know about lupus. You've had several celebrities, like Tony Braxton. Here, local artists, I'm connected in the marketplace. Say Trick Daddy also has lupus.
Right.
You think of these different celebrities and people were starting to get notoriety about it. Queen Latifah's mother also has systemic scleroderma and it affected her heart. Wow. So that's why she became advocate for the Heart Association. I'm sorry, but my sister was like, "Talk about the lungs, Queen. Talk about the lungs," because she knew she had that platform to really bring light to systemic scleroderma, but they're really focused on the heart. But autoimmune disease affects young women. They call it the young women's disease. So anywhere between from 9 to 12, when young girls start to get their menstruation cycle, something about that activates in young women's bodies. And stress, like I tell everyone, is that dormant number one killer that causes cancer, autoimmune disease, and other things that they don't know is going on in your body. Most of the time is linked to stress.
So when it comes to something like this, I mean, like, why are you so passionate about it as far as just speaking and letting people know? Like, how does one even get introduced to this? Is this something that is hereditary, or how does it even come about to where somebody has to deal with this type of challenge?
Sometimes there are some hereditary links for different ones. When we became into an awareness of this, why we became so passionate, how the Wonder Twins became so passionate about talking about autoimmune diseases, because my sister had to advocate for her health. Okay, let's talk about these health disparities being a minority in America. Yeah. Okay, and how it affects us. So imagine my sister, she braided my niece's hair, and she's like, "My fingers hurt. Like, why are my fingers hurting?" She started noticing her fingers started to shift. Her toes started to shift. So she's talking to the doctor like, "Okay, what's going on?" And they're like, and they will tell you this oftentimes, as people of color, you're vitamin C deficient and you're calcium deficient. So they were telling her, just take some supplements and you should be fine. 3 years later, 3 doctors later, she had a doctor that asked her, when they ask you those family history questions, and they said, anybody in your family has rheumatoid arthritis? My sister had arthritis. My mother has arthritis. My mother has osteoporosis. And so she said, my mom. My sister answering that question incorrectly gave us 3 years. Because at that point, when they gave her a full blood panel analysis, where they look up in your blood, check for everything under the moon that could be contained in disease-wise in the blood, that's when they found out. And she was likened to someone being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
Because the systemic scleroderma, when you catch...
And this was now 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when she got diagnosed in 2015. And so had they listened to her, to these doctors, she's like, something is wrong. They're like, no, you're calcium. That's all they kept telling you, you're calcium and vitamin D deficient. All they had to do was check the blood. But when you basically, like when she became disabled, left her good paying job, now you're dependent on Medicare, you're dependent on all these different things. And now because you're not paying, to get that type of quality care, they treat you differently. Yeah. When you're not paying these high HMOs and stuff. And so because my sister advocated for her health, we became very passionate about that, telling everybody, listen, if something is wrong with your body, you need to find the answer. Do not just take anything, because she clearly, her body deteriorated. So here they told her when they diagnosed her, the doctor said to her, you have 6 months to 10 years to live. And I was like,
this
the
was
devil
in 2015.
Yeah, and I was like, the devil is a lie. They don't know. I'm telling you about God. God is a healer. Like, literally, God used these hands right here to be conduits of healing. My mother was born with 2 tumors. Okay, God led me on a fast. I was a sophomore in college before, I heard God clear as day, and I began to pray. I began to fast. I laid hands on my mom. My mother no longer has those tumors. When she went back to the doctor to get a CAT scan, she literally had to show her old films with her new films, because they're trying to figure out how these 2 masses of size of a grapefruit are no longer on your brain.
Wow.
So you can't tell me God can't heal.
Yeah.
So when my identical twin tell me that the doctor told her she had 6 months to 10 months to live, I was like, nope, we're not speaking that. We declare healing.
Right.
I say a whole nother year move forward. My sister and I, it was so funny. We were talking about destiny, just thinking about, basically your messaging and how we're different. My sister and I was on South Beach, chilling, having self-care, just chillaxing. Folks in from Maryland. We got family down from Maryland. 4th of July weekend. And our light attracted some executive producers that we didn't even, we always talk about, we need our own show. Everybody tell us, y'all need your own show, reality show. From young people always tell us that, y'all need to be on TV. We love Tia and Tamara, sister. We always there are celebrity sisters.
Right,
oh my gosh, idolize them. We're sitting at the pool at the W. Next thing you know, phone numbers exchange. We want to polish off for your show. I was like, God, are you serious? We were just having a self-care moment, chilling out by the pool.
So this is after the she's diagnosed.
After the diagnosis.
2016.
So, this is 2016. So
okay.
Oddly enough, my sister got on oxygen. So in the midst of us Skyping, right when the Zoom started to come out, they basically were the doctor told her 6 months she's going to be on oxygen. So they said, okay, we need to see how your audience responds to the new look of your sister. Because, they're watching and following our social media, following, whatever. My sister never got off the oxygen, and I was, devastated because the show didn't happen. Because when you're thinking about, aesthetically, they're thinking, how people are going to receive, this beautiful woman with oxygen. They didn't know how to handle that. But literally, I took that. God gave me a vision. Next thing you know, I said I gave her a glam makeover, because when you have autoimmune disease, they pump you with steroids. Within about 5 months time span, my sister gained over 100 pounds, because every time she was hospitalized, they were pumping her at 120 of prednisone at 120 milligrams. So they give her these high dosages. She could have went into renal failure. And the doctor was like, no, she has scleroderma. You can't be pumping her with all these steroids. So my sister You know, you're dealing about, you know, we've always been plus size girls. I've been a plus size model for 21 years. But body shaming and people looking at you like, oh, why are you getting so big? And she's like, she lost like 90 pounds. So that total of her to gain 140 pounds after she lost so much weight, she went to a spirit of depression. Holy Spirit said, give her a glam over. I did her like a full glam over photo shoot, and we had this statement because people would look at her and just stare. So then we started making this statement: don't stare, just pray.
Yeah.
Because now she felt like, you know, she was like, I don't want to go out. I feel like a spectacle. Everybody's looking at me like I'm a contagion. Before we was wearing masks, my sister started, the funny thing enough, before we went to the COVID, we actually had a mask line. Because when we go out, because of breathing, people will smoke, and she was like, I'm trying to breathe. Y'all smoking. Everybody like to light up and smoke, but for her lungs, she has COPD. She has interstitial lung disease. She can't be inhaling those smoke, you know? Yeah. So we had to start in the mask line, and that particular message, don't stare, just pray, that picture went viral, which led us to the state capitol to be able to advocate for scleroderma awareness and research and making sure that scleroderma gets funding because it is underfunded by our government. So it's just literally just listening to God, supporting her, getting the message out there, connected us to a breadth of resources and connected us with people.
So tell me this, because as I was doing my research and I found out about, and I don't want to pronounce it wrong, say it again for me.
Systemic scleroderma.
Systemic scleroderma. It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like, does it disproportionately affect women of color, African American women?
Yes, now, so more of the research has come out in the last years. Ironically, it is, even environmental.
Why is that?
You know, like I told you, stress. I really think the demands of our environment, where we live, I really, in my spirit, like that, literally it came to me. I was like, wow, God, it has to be, stress. You know, the stress of the blessing and the curse of wearing a cape. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. We know black women carry the weight of the world. Just like black men, we carry the weight. Absolutely. You know, being that our wound is the matriarch of all civilization, we feel that. Absolutely. You know, and
from the beginning.
Yes, and we even have stuff. We have DNA. Thank you, Holy Spirit. We have trauma encoded in our DNA that we carry. When you talk about, people quit talking about generational curses. There's generational blessings, but we have generational trauma that we pass down. Even as mothers, when we birth our kids, we even pass down stuff, even in the birthing. So you think about the weight that black women have to carry on so many schisms, right? We could talk all day about the schisms that affect black people. So when we carrying this stuff, what do you think your body, like you said, like I said, stress causes dis-ease in your spirit, dis-ease in your physical body, dis-ease in your emotions.
As you say that, man, I just think about, I've never even thought about it like that, but if you think about from the challenges as a black mom, you think about just with your kids walking out the door.
Come on.
Or the schools and how the kid might be treated at school, or the lack of fairness when you go to a workplace, right? Or the lack of opportunities because of your gender or the color of your skin.
Yes.
Like there's a disproportionate amount of stress that our black women got to deal with
every day.
Every day.
Then when you have all those elements, and then when you have the single independent woman phenomenon that some women wear as a badge of honor, it's not an honor to me. You know, like I am a womanist. I'm all about, you know, empowering our women, because that's what I do in the community. Yeah. But however, I do believe in order. Yeah. I believe, you know, that all of us are supposed to be connected with our mates, you know, our husbands. And when we don't have that covering, like, listen, when you are uncovered, that thing really affects women. No matter how hard we put on these capes, we want to adjust our crown. Since I need you to adjust it. But when we're not covered and have that helpmate, somebody that we can adult together, have a partnership together, so then we can come in covenant with each other, it does affect you.
So tell me this then, because, Davi, when I hear you say that, it makes me think about there's so many strong black women that push away good men, black or white. Right? It don't matter. I'm not talking about color when it comes to that. But there's so many strong black women that because of the challenges and those generational traumas that you've learned to deal with and cope with. It's so many strong black women that when they do have the opportunity for that covering, they push it away.
You know
why is that?
You know what? There's a myriad of reasons, and I think for the culturally, it's a cultural component. I always tell people, listen, I'm an alpha woman, but we've had some very emasculatory alpha mothers, alpha grandmothers, have conditions say, hey, I remember this. My mom used to always tell me this. You don't never need a man for nothing. She always say, make sure you have your own. God bless the child that got his own. I love you, Mama. Mama used to tell me this. Don't ever put yourself in a position where you need a man to take care of you. But the opposite, what I saw was my grandfather was a provider. Yeah. My grandfather took care of home. My grandmother was a domestic. She worked for two rich physicians on Miami Beach. And my grandmother's money was her money. My grandfather still covered her. So for me, there was a duality. You were here, within our communities, you had those strong women like, girl, go get your coin. Yes, go get your coin. But when God aligns you to a man of God, there is divine order. What I also learned is, to that conversation, I'm going to add to this, dealing with a lot of corporate women. I know a lot of boss women, moguls, women who make 6 or 7 figures. Yeah. The problem is why they don't also know how to receive it. They don't know how to win it. They don't know how to turn off the boss mode. When you have another man who is self-assured, who knows his place, who he is in your life, you can't micromanage him.
So it's so funny that when me and my wife, we were talking about earlier, before we started taping, we were talking about my wife and how we met and everything. And when I met her, she was it was only the CEO and then it was her. She was the chief operating officer. Like, everybody reported to her at the company. She had been there for years, 14 years at the time, I believe. And I have to tell her in the beginning, like, hey, you're not at work. We got to cut that off. Like, I respect the execution. I respect the boss attitude. Like, I respect all of that. And in the house, it's not like she does what I say or I do what she say. Like, we're a team, but there is an order to things. But we have to be mindful. And I thank God for her. Yeah. She was like, I received that, okay. And she's able to check that, and we've been able to grow from that. But that first year, we had those conversations a lot where it's like, hey, I don't work for you. Like, we're not at work. You're not the boss. We working together here. And so, but it's a lot of women that they struggle with that.
They do, and I always say this on various platforms and relationship panels. I always started by saying this. Stop feeling like you sleeping with the enemy.
Wow.
We treat each other like we are each other's enemies. I'm like, why is everybody in so defensive mode all the time? Your guard is always up. And you know what it brought back to me is that disconnect is, I think, on both entities, I call it the clash of the titans, is that we don't know how to be vulnerable. Yeah. If you don't know how to be authentic and true to yourself, how can you expect to receive that?
Why is that?
When we talked about that DNA, that trauma, it is a generational trauma. So when you talk about when they brought us off on these ships and scattered us under the African diaspora, and when you went through that disease, when they began to break down the slave, in the book Without Fire by Dr. Love Henry Welchel, they talk about the dehumanization, the derationalization, desexualization, the humanization of the black man and the black woman during the time of slavery. It caused them to disconnect. When they broke the black family up, when they made the stud, y'all see all these, we know we're byproducts. Hey, you aren't supposed to produce and multiply. You are gold. You are human cattle. You are human gold. So you put this fine man on this plantation, he's knocking them all up. Right. You popping out these babies, and what happens? You got the father scattered. Yeah. You got all these babies that's like human horses and mules. Yeah. And where is the
tearing
connect?
Up the whole dynamic of what family is.
Yeah, but even in that destruction, slaves also a lot of slaves still were married. So even if they switched them when they found out they were married, they'll move them to different plantations. They would try to find each other. So there was still black love even during that time. And I would like to tell people, like, it wasn't just us just making babies. They were also, slaves who defied, their masters, and they run away because they had that love, even in a broken place. But it's generational. Wow. It's generational. Wow. That thing has been passed down, DNA encoded, but we have to reauthor it, change the narrative. We have to grow and learn from it. And we have to get back to a place to realize that our greatest strength is when we are connected together, when we are loving and working in harmony. That is why they broke down that black family. Because the black family together, the man and the woman, the child, like there is no limits. Yeah. No limit.
Absolutely. So tell me this. Well, before we jump into that, I gotta go. We gotta go to a break really quick. I gotta run to a quick commercial for a sponsor. Listen, man, it's so dynamic, man. Like, it's so dynamic. There's so many questions, so many things I want to get into, but I want to stop it right here just to make sure. Listen, you want to make sure you come back for the second half of this. I'm telling you right now, Davi Speaks. She's in here dropping so much knowledge right now. I'm so appreciative that she came through. You definitely want to come back. We just different. Do everything possible to do everything possible. What you better do is make sure you do everything possible to see the second half of this, because I know for a fact she's got some stuff she want to drop to us. Okay, hey, listen, We Just Different Podcast. I'm so excited to have Davi Speaks right here with me, dropping knowledge. We're talking about just how dynamic just the black family, the black woman, the black man. Hey, listen, we got to do a better job at talking about stuff like this. One of the things that I've noticed a lot in corporate America, as I was able to grow and develop and just establish myself in corporate America, it's almost like there's a way, because I've been told that you don't sound like you're black, or you don't act like this. And I was even told one time that, and I won't say the name, I almost said the name, but my wife is scared of black people, but she wouldn't be scared of you. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And it's like we have been taught for so long that you need to kind of hide or dumb down your blackness or your just everything that you come from. Why do we feel like that? Why do we put ourselves in that situation and go through that? What do you think?
Because we see firsthand being immersed in oppressive white systems. Yeah. Even I went through that. So as early as third grade, the first time a microphone was put in my hand, I put it down, this was in the fourth grade, would somebody say, your daughter's so very articulate. And
like you weren't supposed to be.
Oh yeah, right. And then with the other black kids, because I grew up living in the South Miami-Dade area. My earlier years, I went to predominantly white schools. Okay. When first time I went to an all black school, she talks white. I'm like, what is talk white? You know, I've talked proper. I come from a family of educators, so to not be able to express myself, that's unacceptable in our household. Like my aunt used to drive me crazy, changing me grammatically. I'm like, I'm just a kid. Can I mess up on a word? No, you cannot. Yeah. And so what I've learned that even from early on, even as early as third grade, you being articulate, that's not the norm. Yeah. I would be called upon, and people used to always feel I dealt with colorism growing up. Yeah. And so I talk about it in my book a lot. People felt like because I was light-skinned and I talked proper, I had to learn how to, code switch. I had to learn how to speak Ebonics. Growing up in South Florida, like being bullied, and I was always one who would not be bullied. Mm-hmm. And my mother used to say, I didn't teach you to fight. I'm like, listen, I go to Miami no Western. It's lean on me out here in these streets. So I have to defend myself.
So for the people that's watching, because a lot of people, when a lot of people hear Miami, or when you listen, you hear Miami, you think the Miami that everybody see on the postcards. You think the Miami that everybody coming to, right, that you come into vacation for spring break. Where is Miami Northwestern? What? That's Miami, but that's not Miami.
That's Liberty
City. Liberty City. That's the real 305.
That's
right?
the real 305 across that bridge. When you hear these local artists, when they say don't come across that bridge, you don't want to come across that bridge if you're not from that part of town. Absolutely. So I was not from that part of town. And the reason why I say that even as young from third grade, that ideology even transcends even corporate America. I went through that. It had to shift. You know, I can't come in there too aggressive. Like, I went through so many, oh my gosh, like bumps in the road. It took for me working for a major property management company that embraced my cultural, like they really wanted me to, you know, to me to be who I be, and it wasn't an issue. I got let go my last job before my last time higher education. I was let go because of I was Black and I was excelling. I was the only one in that portfolio in the Southeast region. I was the Black, I was like in the hierarchy of property management. And they used to try to come at me, throw these obscure sales challenges. But by the grace of God, I always say, God, Daddy, you see what these folks doing, so I'm going to need you to cover me. We have to super exceed. And no matter what they threw at me, they were trying to figure out how this Black girl doing this. Like, they literally were trying to sabotage me for 3.5 years. And when they finally let me go, and I told them, I said, you guys, I know they were racist. And I called them out on it. I had someone, okay, prime example, I'm in the meeting. One of the vice presidents came in town. She was a plus-size woman like me. We were doing a lease-up. My regional says, hey, Davika, can you bring her a shirt? And she looked at me and she said, how did she say it? Something about, oh, please make sure it's clean. Now, I've always been a fashionista. I'm always, like, people tell me, Davika, you're not going to prom.
As if you were going to bring her a dirty shirt.
As if I was going to bring her a dirty shirt. And I looked at her, I said, I'm sorry. I said, and I told her like this in her face. I said, I'm sorry. What makes you think that I would give you a dirty shirt? Right. Keep in mind, my regional, she's a British woman. Mm-hmm. She didn't understand the connotation because she kept saying, I'm from Ole Miss, Ole Miss. So she's letting me know she's her family's front of the good old boys. Right. So when she made this statement, she was very intentional. So when I called her out on it, she went to crying and her, you know, crying, oh, I didn't mean it that way. Yes, you did. And I refused. I said, yes, you did. Because you made sure you told me you was from Ole Miss. And like the real chill Davika, no, she got that. No, I'm sorry, I'm calling you out. Right. That was racist, and you intentionally, you came for me, and I'm letting you know I'm not having it. And she basically found a loophole. And then when I told them about it, they tried to say that it wasn't discrimination. But later it came out, they were trying to say I was being retaliatory about when they let me go. Like, how you let me go, and I earned an additional in commissions close to $25,000 for hitting all them goals y'all tried to jam me up with. Wow. Yes. Wow. But the blessing of that was that when I was released from that job, I was able to be my sister's caregiver. But I was so angry. I was my righteous indignation. I'm like, God, they fired me, but I had all that overflow.
So all of this is going on at the same time that your sister has been diagnosed with this like life-changing situation.
And dealing with corporate America and being Black and coming up, showing up in the spirit of excellence, giving them that good Black girl magic, being successful in their portfolio, and it still wasn't enough. So when you think about that I carried that from the 3rd grade, where they already told me something about me was different. I had a white teacher in the 4th grade slap me in the face with a book because she told me to be quiet because I was the only one asking questions. Because I was engaged into the learning environment. So
this goes right into what we were talking about just as far as just the stress that you have to deal with.
Every day.
Just being a Black woman. Mm-hmm. My goodness, man. So what now? Why now? What now? Why now? How now are you so passionate about everything that you do? Like, who is Davi Speaks? Like, what do you speak about? Who are you trying to impact? Why are you so passionate to, I imagine, let women know of color that you can do this, man. Like, anything you want to go after, you can have. Like, why? I think I know why, but explain to me how you're so passionate. Like, why are you so passionate now about doing everything possible to do everything possible? Like, why is that so big to you now?
Wow, that's a great question. For me, it always got to talk about, you go back to your genesis. It started when I realized at a young age that whatever purpose that was in me, the devil been trying to kill me from the time I was in my mama's womb to the first early trauma. I was sexually molested by my uncle at 3 years old, and it just was like a repetitive revolving door.
So the devil been trying to take you out.
Been trying to take me out. Wow. But it was at 16, my Lord. It was at 16, I was angry. Because imagine that first violation at 3 and going from being young, right? And you experience that violation, looking at my body, having these things, you know, when you're teenagers are going through this stuff. I experienced a gang rape. I was set up by some girls
16.
who didn't like me. I was 13 at the time when that happened. But I'm going there to 16. So my body in violation, I'm like, God, what is it about me?
So wait a minute. You were, what age? So you said
The
a
first
family
time-
member.
Yes, an uncle.
At what age?
I was 3. Me and my twin sister were 3
3.
years old. 3 years old,
My
babies.
God, man.
3 years old.
Okay, so 3 years old, that happens. 13.
13.
You get set up by somebody.
Yep.
And gang rape.
Gang rape.
Oh, my goodness.
And at 16, when my uncle was released from prison, and I'm telling the story just the way I'm telling it. When he was released at prison when I was 16 years old, when I found out,
Your uncle that
raped me and my sister.
At 3.
Yeah.
At 16. So 13 years later. Okay.
So we was going to court between the ages of 5 to 7 years old. The first time I stood on the court and had to point at him and call him out for the violation because he tried to lie and said he didn't rape us when the rape kit had semen, blood, and all the evidence, propelling evidence, and we had to be able to have to stand in front of him and say, he was like, he calls a liar and said, no, you lie, you did this to me. I was first time 5 years old. That's when I realized my voice was powerful because this man got arrested.
At 5 years old, you had to stand in front of a courtroom?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, it was crazy. Like, it was so, like, that whole time frame, I didn't know that even though with the enemy tried to take me out, they were setting me up for my purpose. So at 16, my uncle gets released from prison. I found out at the age of 16 that my uncle, when he raped us, was HIV positive. Right.
Wow.
All these years I'm carrying anger. God, why you let this happen to me? God, you know, I was raped and then I got gang rape and why people don't like me. What is it about me that when I walk in the room, girls, I just don't matter. I come in there, oh, she thinks she all that. Like I always dealt with people looking at me and hating me and wanting to do things to me. And I was like, God, why? I just love people.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to empower people. Like I was in the 5th grade when I first became a peer mediator. Like I've always knew this heart for service, you know, to serve others. I was always from a young girl serving people. And so at 16, when I found out my uncle had died due to complication of AIDS, and my mom told us, she was like, that's why you guys was in the hospital a lot, just to make sure they was doing testing, because my mother, which led her into age research, she became one of the prominent nurses in the field of early age research with Dr. Paula Sparty's office down in South Miami-Dade because of that. We didn't know, but my mother kept us around it, and that's how the Wonder Twins and our story and the things we talk about started talking about young people, about rape, sex. I became a sex educator very young with Red Cross and just different things, you know, talking to people and young people about loving their bodies. You know, if they are being sexually active, please protect yourself. Know your part. Like you have to have these conversations. And like even when I would go to churches, I'm like, listen, I can go in the room. I'm like, excuse my French, them babies hunching. I can't come here just talk about, you know, just purity when we need to have a conversation so they'll know why they need to be pure. Yeah. Why they need to abstain and wait. You know, you want me to come in here with some archaic message when they doing more than what you're doing. Right. You know, let's have a real conversation because I need to tap into them to get them to love their bodies and understand that they are precious, even after for those girls who aren't pure anymore, because, you know, having that scarlet letter, like, I was shamed after being gang raped. I'm like, I got raped. Yeah. And I'm everything but the child of God. Oh, I'm no good. I'm not going to be no good. Nobody's going to want me. Yeah. You know? And dealing with all of that stuff, I said,
you're dealing with this as a teenager.
As a teenager, and I was helping other teenagers going through that.
And the crazy part about it is, unfortunately, there's so many people that go through that. Yes. That they never get a chance to speak about it. Mm-hmm. They never get a chance to come out on the other side and see that God still loves them. Mm-hmm. Like, so many young girls have taken their own lives after dealing with stuff like that. Like, that's amazing that you were even able to withstand that and still be here today telling the story.
And it's not a beautiful story. I tell people all the time. People ask me, oh, you're so beautiful. I'm like, but my story isn't. And for me, and I'm saying this, and I don't know why the Holy Spirit just dropped this, and I'm trying to hold back tears. But for those women who are waiting to be found, sis, you are a treasure. I remember when people used to make me feel like, you know, I've dated men. I've dated some we call them high value men, and they wouldn't want me to share my story. Because they like, I don't want people to know that. I'm like, but listen, then you're not the one for me because you blocking my purpose. You blocking my purpose. I can what? God gave me this story to empower people because I stopped talking about rape. I stopped talking about HIV and AIDS because even in college, like I went through so much. Even when I'm in a sorority now, but even when I was trying to, you know, to get into that world in HBCU, like the shade. Oh, you know, she was out there. She was wild. And I'm like, really? You know, wow. you telling lies. You don't even know the whole story. But let me educate you about my life. Let me tell you how my story went. Don't go by secondhand information. I'm the primary source. Yeah. Get it from me. Yeah. And people are like, wow, I didn't know that. I'm like, you can't listen to the rumors. You know, we all had my little wild phase, yeah, but that stopped as a teen. Because God, at the age of 16, showed me that the blood covered me. Right, right. Because my blood was cross-contaminated. Yeah. Wow. I'm still HIV negative by the grace of God. Listen, hello. Wow. Because
And this man died from HIV.
This man died.
And raped you. Mm-hmm. And you HIV negative. Mm-hmm. If that ain't God, I don't know what is.
Listen. Wow. So I tell people, don't ever be ashamed of your story.
Right.
Don't ever be ashamed of your story because you don't know how many people are waiting for your voice, waiting to hear your story. You know, so many captives that need to be set free. And when you are ashamed, you got blood on your hands. Yeah. God had to check me many a time because I ran from the call. Yeah. Because I was always that girl, she pretty, but, you know, Jezebel or Delilah. And I'm like, no, because I embrace my femininity. Mm-hmm. I know who I am. Mm-hmm. I love being a woman. But I'm not out here trying to snatch nobody's husband. Right. I don't operate in that spirit. Right, right. You know, try the spirit by the spirit. I don't even play them games. Absolutely. So Absolutely. It's just a matter of embracing your femininity. And I love everything what it is to be a woman. Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do now? What's next? Like, why Davi Speaks? Like, tell me, who do you want to impact the most? And the time, so one of the things that God has really been pressing on my heart is just that the time that we are here on this planet, the time that we experience life in this physical form that we know now is, you know, life. Mm-hmm. If we're not making an impact, if we're not serving, and when I say serving, I don't mean it from a sense of just everything has to be about others, but I mean a sense from just if we're not doing something greater than just what we can experience in our lifetime, we ain't doing enough. Right. Like, I believe that we should be planting seeds on purpose, knowing that we're not going to reap the benefits of those seeds, but there's going to be for 5, 6, 7 generations coming. Yes. So everything that we're talking about says to me, the books, the speaking, everything that you're going to be doing is like, Davi's impacting women that she's never going to meet. Mm-hmm. Have you realized that?
Yes.
Why is it that you are so who you are and have that much energy knowing that it's women across the world that are going to benefit from your story?
It's all God. For me, I think at a young age, I'll tell you, I was going to Genesis. Remember hearing Jesus said, greater works you shall do. Yeah. And me, I always felt this unction for entertainment. The first time they put that mic in my hand in 4th grade, the first time I hit the runway as a senior in high school, like I always knew from a young girl I want to be a star. Right. I said, my mom, I want to be a lawyer, and I want to sing like Whitney Houston. Now, I can't sing, but I got this raspy now, but never got to the whole Whitney. Gotcha. But I knew that for me, I was always, like I told you, my moral compass started as a Southern Missionary Baptist, right? Yeah. So my faith, first time I gave my life to Christ, I was 5 years old. So my faith and my conviction that when my favorite song was, I have decided to follow Jesus, no turning back, no turning back. I always said that when I got into the entertainment realm, because you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be somebody's celebrity. Right. They need to see Christians in the marketplace. Yeah. Like who was sold out, bold, they fly, they not churchy. Now I got my little churchy ways, but in the sense of free and my boldness and my liberation, like the church used to fight me for that. I'm like, why are you doing all that? Because God created me with all this goodness. Like God didn't give me all this me as a creative, gave me this voice that when I talk, people say, well, we just want to just listen to the sound of your voice. Yeah. Even when my voice got raspy, I was fighting. I'm like, God, I need my girly, soft voice. People like, girl, listen, when I lost my voice, people's like, I have to listen because people tell me, I hear the sound of God in your voice. Yeah. But people type like, I hear the sound of God in your voice. I said, that's how God sounded to you? That right there was powerful. People say when you talk, I shut everything out. Yeah. And so that's when I learned that when they say you have life and death in the power of your tongue, I realized very young that I have to watch what I say. Yeah. Because I've seen things, I've been mad and went off, and I felt the spirit come off me, and I repented. I fell on my face. I said, okay, God, I know I got a gift. Yeah. Fell on my face, and I repented. I said, God, I call that forth back because I don't want with that to go do what I said I wanted it to do. That rocked me, and from that moment, even when I'm mad, I have to catch myself because I know the power that rests in this tongue. So
let me ask you this, though, because it's like you go through things, and it's like, have you ever gotten to the point where you were just depressed or ashamed about your story? Because I know for me, I think about some things that I've been through, and I went through years of depression because I didn't want to tell nobody the things that. I didn't want to tell somebody I failed so many times that, I got foreclosures, I got bankruptcies, I got repos, I got multiple kids by multiple women in multiple states. Like, it was a shameful story to tell, to the point that nobody knew the truth, and I was very good at acting like everything was good, but nobody knew because I was ashamed of the story. Like, talk to me about that. Like, and the reason I want you to talk to me about that is because I feel like there's somebody that's going to see this or hear this, and this might save their life, right? Because there's people that are thinking about, maybe I should end it because I'm not enough. Like, I don't have a relationship with God, and I don't even believe in that because the church has judged me so long. But not only that, like, I've messed up a lot. Like, I'm not worthy. Like, why is it that you are so, like, what I'm seeing now is just so confident. And to hear your story, I mean, raped at 3, gang raped at 13. I mean, and just to know, and then, not only that, you lose your twin sister 3 years ago, and then you still on a daily basis deal with these challenges, just being a black woman. Yes. Let's be honest, in a white man's world here in America, right? Yeah. So it's like, how do you stay just all of this, so much positive energy?
Man, so meditation and prayer. Like you said, the first time I did go through a season of isolation. Yeah. Like, I literally stopped talking. And from a young age, people used to always try to mute me. I muted myself because when I felt like I was being denied access because of my boldness, because of how I looked. And I said, you know what? I'm tired of fighting. Right. Like, why does it always have to be so hard for me? Like I said, literally, I walk in the room and it's just L. Everybody catching L and throwing shade. I'm like, all I want to do is be great. All I want to do is be who God created me to do. All I'm doing is showing up, and you got a problem with me. Yeah. And so when, like I said, I wanted to pledge and I wanted to do certain things, and like not getting access to certain stuff socially, I was like, let me close my mouth because there's things that I wanted to, to have those levels of attainment, but by the grace of God, God's timing is infinite. I became a part of that sorority, and they came to me. It wasn't me going to them. And it was a sense of, it was an honor because it's hard for you on the graduate level to get, offered membership. But I didn't get offered membership until I started opening up my mouth. Wow. And begin to declare what thus says the Lord according to Davika's life canon and what she went through. And when I was meeting, women in different places, there was audiences waiting for me that I didn't even know there was an audience there. All I did was just show up and walk into the room. When I could go to places like Louisville, Kentucky, when I could go to Mexico, and people like, Davi Speaks, oh my God, I know you, I'm following you, I know your story. And I'm like, for real, God? Like, I got chills. Like, I go places, the most obscure places, somebody know my name? Yeah. And it's all because I'm glorifying God and being true to my authentic self by telling the story, because I don't want to see another girl kill herself. Yeah. I don't want to see another girl choose down a life path all because she's ashamed of her story. Yes, I wore the scarlet letter too. But I refuse to let them hang me and call me a witch. Right. Wow. And like I said, it took prayer, meditation. When you talked about, depression, I honestly did not experience depression until my sister passed away. I didn't realize that the last 3 years, I have been living in autopilot. And because of the stress, my sister left behind 2 kids. So here, now I became from my mama 1. It's already hard. Like I said, I date high value men. I'm like, it's hard when you got one child and looking at you like, but I want you to have kids. And I'm like, bro, we're not doing that. You know, now I got 3 other kids. I'm like, okay, I went from 1 kid, now I got 3. I got a high school, my nephew's a high school graduate. He's in college. I got my niece and my nephew. They're Irish twins. They're 10 months apart. And I got all this stuff going on. And I'm like, God, I'm uncovered. We talk about that again. I'm not married. I got to maintain a household of 4 by myself as an entrepreneur. Yeah. I just got fired. Yeah. Then I got a job. I got sick, caught pneumonia, can't work, like a whole situation. And I'm like, God, I got to show up and be Davi, happy all the time. Like, it was days where I literally did not get out of the bed, but just to go use the restroom, come back. Or the kids need something to eat. I got to so good. I'm like, can y'all drop off some groceries? Y'all go fend for yourself. Nephew, because my nephew could cook. Y'all got what y'all need. Let me be. Yeah. And literally, like 4 weeks ago, I'm being so honest, I was in a space and I was praying. It just wasn't breaking. I'm like, God, you know, where's my breakthrough gonna come through? I feel like every time I get to that point, like I said, even with the reality show, it's snatched from me. I'm like, God, what is this? Like, every time I'm getting to that place of breakthrough, it's being snatched. Like the rug gets pulled from up under me. Yeah. And I'm laying in the bed, and my sister, even in the ancestor life, we still got that twin telepathic energy. And she said to me, do you remember? And we literally brought me back to our last conversation 14 hours before she transitioned. We had the Wonder Twins. We call it the meeting of the masterminds, Wonder Twin domination. Do you remember? And I literally awakened. I came back to myself and just doing Reiki meditation, going to a natural doctor because I have to watch my body because of the autoimmune antibodies. And it has just been an ongoing situation. And I said to myself, from the time I was in my mama's womb, from 3 years old to 16, those were the defining moments that I knew that my purpose, that whatever was in me, is so great that the devil has not stopped. He has not taken his foot off me because whatever's in me is so great it got to come out. And I refuse to let him think he win because I already know the word tell me that Jesus gave me the victory. I will overcome it. And that's how I get up. I show up for myself, throw on some bronzer, put a little contour, put on a little lip gloss, and pop it. Because I said, whatever's in me, he been trying to take me out. Yeah. And my sister said, do you remember? The work must continue. So I have to continue her legacy, continue to spread, awareness for scleroderma, continue to talk about mentorship, continue to talk about literacy, continue to talk about connecting the Black family, sustaining families. I have to keep moving forward, even when I, too, need resources, even when I, too, am trying to figure it out to be the first millionaire of my generation, because I come from millionaires. Yeah. I'm like, God, what happened? What happened in the early 1900s? What my ancestors did? What's going on? Yeah. I got to make sure that I call my kids children of the cross. They see what mommy go through. And to them, mommy's a celebrity. Mommy is rich. And I'm like, y'all, mommy ain't rich. Yeah. Listen, mama, I tell them all the time, God is keeping us. Yeah. So I keep it real with them. I let them understand so they won't feel like they're entitled. They understand that they're kept and that they are blessed and that every time we get new manna is God. Yeah. God has brought me some manna by the brook. Very desert, like literally, I'm like, God, I'm in Lodabar. When I'm getting out of this dry place, I got all this. I'm seeing, God, you put me in places and people are being blessed. I told you I got healing in my hands. Yeah. I don't touch wombs that they would say barren. I didn't even get into my story about to call me barren. Women right now, I can tell you they had twins, triplets, multiple births with these healing in these hands. Yeah. So I can't sit dormant. No matter how much I try, even in obscurity, God done sent people to my door knocking on the door, need a word.
Man, I'm so full of everything that we talking. Like I just can't believe that I just had the opportunity to meet you, and just everything that you brought to the table. And you're right here in my backyard, man. Like you have to come back to the podcast. Like I'm even thinking that I got to talk to my pastor. We got to bring you back to speak to the women in the church. Like we got to do something because you're right here in the backyard. And for me, before I moved to South Florida, I had a mentor tell me, he said, Charles, God is more concerned about your development than your comfort. So you got to get past trying to worry about being comfortable.
Come on.
And understand that God is pushing you to be developed. And so what I see in you is just, there's so much development taking place, and it's not even about Davi. It's not even about everything that you feel and what you can and cannot do, but it's women that need to hear your story.
Yes.
It's people that need to hear your story. It's a young child right now that's going through similar situations that they ready to give up, and they gotta hear your story. So I just want to encourage you to tell you to keep going, and you embody everything that We Just Different is all about, because it's like, if you're not part of the cloth to where you can understand, it's like, it sounds unbelievable that you still got the positive energy that you have, and that you're able to still love, and that you're able to still forgive people. And I mean, everything that you went through, it would make sense to give up. Like, it would. It would.
You know, most of us, we flirt with that. But even in flirting with that, I've never been a quitter. Yeah. I've never, that's just never in me. And I'm like, thank God for that.
Hey, listen, thank you so much for tuning in to We Just Different podcast. Remember, do everything possible to do everything possible. No fear, no regrets. Charles Robinson.